Good morning. It's time for our daily devotion. And today we are in the next to last chapter of Acts, Acts chapter 27. And here we have the story of the journey of Paul as they are taking him to Rome for his appeal to Caesar. And it's an interesting story. It's a story of a shipwreck and all the events leading up to that. Now, as Paul gets ready to leave, he gives a warning that comes from the Lord. An angel of the Lord has come to Paul and said, there's danger ahead. Tell them not to sail. If they sail, there is going to be a shipwreck and there's going to be lots of loss. And so give them this warning that we should not sail yet. And so Paul gives the warning, but they don't listen to him, and they go ahead and sail anyway. And things get progressively worse and progressively worse and progressively worse. And finally, they are shipwrecked. They hit a sand dune and the ship breaks apart, and we'll read the rest of that story tomorrow. So there are a couple of things. One, God does give warnings. Sometimes they are miraculous, like the warning that Paul got here when an angel appeared to him and gave him a very clear and specific warning. Most of the time, I think they're probably not quite as dramatic as that. There are warnings that come through reading God's Word. There are warnings that come through listening to the sermon on Sunday. There are warnings that come in our time of meditation and prayer, listening to the Lord. There are warnings that come from other people who speak into our lives prophetically. So there are lots of ways that warnings come, but believe me, God still warns us of danger ahead. He still warns us when we shouldn't go forward. He still checks our spirit when it's time to hesitate and wait on him rather than time to move forward. And so lesson number one today is heed the warnings. Heed the warnings. One of the best pieces of advice I ever received was from a man in my church who once told me, Rick, if in doubt, don't. If you're in doubt, if you feel a check in your spirit, if you feel warned somehow that you shouldn't go forward. Now, this isn't an excuse for us to be paranoid or for us to be paralyzed. This is an excuse for us to do nothing and sit and say, well, I'm afraid if I do anything, it'll be the wrong thing. No. But when the strong warning and that strong sense from the Spirit comes that we should hesitate and wait. And God will continue to guide and show us clear leadership as we go forward. So when you feel warned, stop in your tracks, wait for further direction from the Lord. The second piece of advice, as we'll see tomorrow as we finish this story, even when the warnings are not heeded, God somehow has this wonderful way of turning bad situations into good ones and redeeming situations that otherwise could be catastrophic. As we'll see tomorrow, and I'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow, that even in this situation where the warning wasn't heeded, God ultimately does some good things through Paul because Paul was obedient. You know, you're going to wake up someday, if you haven't already, maybe several some days, and you're going to say, man, I knew I shouldn't have done this. I know this was a mistake. I knew it when I was getting ready to make the decision. I felt it in my spirit. I felt the check in my heart. Well, here's the good news. Even when we have gone ahead, even when we have sailed when we shouldn't have sailed, ended up where we probably should never have ended up, God has a wonderful way of redeeming the situation and bringing about good for what could have been evil, what could have been catastrophic, what could have been of no avail. God is in the redeeming business. So be careful, heed the warnings, step forward carefully, always listening to the Lord. But if you find yourself in a situation where you know you've made a mistake or where you have gone where you shouldn't have gone or done what you shouldn't have done, rest assured that if you will recommit yourself and your life and your purpose to the Lord, He will bring the very best possible ending to that solution. Isn't that good to know? We're never beyond hope with the Lord. Now, go make it a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.